Hi, welcome back to the channel. I'm Michelle, and today I want to give you my review on our family subjects. If you're new here, this was our first year homeschooling, my 9 and 5-year-old, so everything I'm going to show you here is something we did together. So I'm going to start off with Torchlight Level 2. I have a separate review on this. I'll link up above if you want to see that. But I've seen people often talk about how this is just a glorified book list, and I feel like it's so much more than that. Yes, the book list is amazing, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but there's so many more extension activities, there's video links, there's art projects, there's so much more in here that you can pull from. And again, we don't use everything in here. Like I said in that review video, we don't do the spell book, we don't do the science aspect. We do a lot more, and we pick and choose what we want to do, which is the great thing about Torchlight. You can pull the resources you want to use or have time to use. So what I really like about it is, of course, the book list. It has very strong female leads. Some of the things we talked about, I have notes down here. Homelessness, American Sign Language, racism, Native American stories, neurodiversity, being shy. We did poetry, we talked about foster care. So there was many different topics covered from many different perspectives, which was wonderful. It was definitely diverse reads, and I think it's very good for children to be able to see things from the perspective of others. So going through these books was really helpful. I especially liked Crenshaw as a book about a family experiencing homelessness, and just the struggle that child was going through dealing with those emotions, I thought was very well written. And I think a lot of people say Torchlight books are the books they recommend are kind of dark or more complex topics, and I think that's a good thing. You know, our children want to talk about real feelings, real situations. They don't always want, you know, the happy ending. They want real, especially my 9-year-old getting to that age where she's realizing more and she wants to be told the truth in situations. And I think these books do a wonderful job validating the child's perspective in the books, that the feelings, the things they're going through are valid. So I really like that. Again, I said the video links were really wonderful. A lot of YouTube links, some National Geographic links, things like that were really helpful in supplementing what we were learning about. I really liked how everything tied together. So most of the time the reader would tie in with history, the YouTube links would tie into that. So it was like someone doing a giant unit study, but doing all the hard work for you. So it was really wonderful. I really enjoyed the lit primers, which gave you an overview of the book, comprehension questions, but not just comprehension questions, but critical thinking questions, which is really nice. Again, I talked about the poetry. I have it here. We did pantomime poetry where it's like a form of memorization, but you use actions as well to help memorize the poems. These were really great. My kids really liked all of them. Some other resources, there was writing in it, but does it have its own writing curriculum? No, this would definitely be supplemental stuff that you would add in. This was really good. It talked about, like it says here, how to make letters, scary stories, poems, reports, going through the elements of it. But it tells a story. So again, this was an awesome resource. Is it a writing curriculum in itself? No, but it's a good supplemental resource. This was really good. We went through many different medieval projects through this book. I talked previously in a video how we did a medieval feast, and there's recipes in here, and how you would decorate your hall and things, and the kids chose different roles they would be playing at a medieval feast. So that was really nice. Some other activities we did through Torchlight were some corn husk dolls. We did some calligraphy. And one thing I really liked, we just finished up, like I said before, one of the books, Charlie and Frog, was about a boy who travels to a town and everybody speaks sign language in that town. So it was really cool, and of course there was sign language video links that you can include, that we learn some sign language and learn along with the book, which was really nice. I've never actually seen or read a book that had that perspective, so it was interesting. The book we just finished, Sputnik, talks about a child going through foster care, and it goes through the rights of children, which I thought was really cool, that it included the 54 United Nations rights that children have. So we went through each of the rights that as a child you have this right, you know, obviously to be protected, education, those different things. We talked about how the character was his rights and needs being met in his situation and what happened to him. So that was really nice to have those supplemental things. So again, Torchlight, I think, has really good points. Do we use everything? No. The art, music, writing, are they really strong components of it? No, they're just, as I would say, supplemental material that don't stand on their own, but it's a wonderful resource to pull from. Next up, it kind of goes with Torchlight too, because this is the history suggested by Torchlight, and this was wonderful. I did buy the guide that goes with it, the instructor's guide to go with it. And all the instructor guide has is people in the chapter, places in the chapter. It has some comprehension questions, some critical thinking questions, a timeline, different reading suggestions, and then activities, and also a Minecraft activity if you are into Minecraft. We don't do Minecraft. But it was really nice. I like that this history is a world perspective. It does not come from a biased or agenda-seeking perspective at all. For example, when especially speaking about medieval times throughout the world, you're going to have a lot of influence by certain religious groups, and to be able to talk about how those groups change the course of history without inserting a bias or an agenda in it is very important, because you can't talk about history without talking about certain religious things that happened. So you want to make sure you obviously are pulling from a non-biased source. I think it did this wonderfully. Same with slavery and European colonization. Wonderfully done. It ended with European colonization, and the book that went with that was Birchbark House, I believe it was called. It was about a Native American family who the European colonists brought over smallpox, and it devastated their tribe, and the different things they go through that. I think things like that are wonderful to be included because it gives that perspective of what happened. It's one thing to say a tribe was devastated by smallpox and to read an entire story about the devastation of a family. So I love how it's intertwined like that. It has a lot of critical thinking questions. It is in dialogue format, which I know isn't for everyone, but my kids really like it. We listened to the audiobook. Some of the activities we did with this, which I thought were really fun, again, we would just listen to the audiobook and do one of the activities, go over the comprehension critical thinking questions. We didn't make it crazy. So some of the things we did is we made a drum from Ghana, and we watched different YouTube videos of African drumming, so that was really cool. We talked about alchemy, and the kids did an experiment where they turned pennies using vinegar and different things like that, because turning things into gold was a big theme in medieval history. We did some chainmail with beads, and we have actually a really big piece of it. My 9-year-old really enjoyed that. We talked about the 4 pillars of Islam. What's really nice is there's recipes included in here that you can make. For example, we did the European feast. I know there's croissants and different recipes from different countries, because again, you're getting medieval times throughout the world, not just Europe. So it's really interesting to see how different countries are, what they're doing during this time, because there are some that are still developing and some that are really blossoming. So there's a lot of games from different countries, or games that they would play during medieval times. One of the things when we were talking about India, we did a spice painting, so using spices, and we painted while listening to music from India that was first formulated during that medieval time, so that was really cool. We made a imbira, hope I'm saying that right. It is a Eastern African thumb piano, so the kids had a lot of fun with that. And again, it's not calling for resources that, like a lot of crazy things you wouldn't necessarily have on hand. We have little wooden pieces. We have all these things we need. Same, we have beads, we have mason jars. These are different things we had. One of the things my kids really enjoyed is there was a Black Plague game. So again, you just needed poof balls or something that you would pull out of a bag, and you played a character, and if that character got the plague, you would see how far you could travel and how many people would be affected on it. And I think that was a wonderful resource to include, to really understand how quickly it spread. And again, this was all included in it. It wasn't, I think that was actually in this book. The last thing is, when we talked about the Vikings, we got to make our own Viking ship. And again, this is just a tea box, and this is a Cheerios box, and this is just a straw. So different things like that that really make it a little more interesting. For Da Vinci, we did a perspective drawing, which was really cool to see how he drew things gave a different perspective of things, and having the kids be able to see how drawing changes the way you see things, medieval art. So it pulls a lot of different things in. And again, I love this curriculum. It's something we will continue. I think one of the best things is it's culturally appropriate. It's not doing, like, I know Story of the World has a lot of issues with that, but they do it respectfully from the perspective of the people you're talking about. So again, love that curriculum. Next is one thing that we did with Torchlight too. I forgot this pile over here. It had some game suggestions, Sleeping Queens. This was really fun. Different role-playing card game. This was kind of a guess who did it type thing, who was in the library. This was a logical thinking game. So those were just fun add-ons. Another thing we did, this wasn't, I guess you wouldn't call it necessarily a family subject because we did this with our homeschool co-op. But again, this is a wonderful resource. I don't actually think you need to buy the curriculum. There's a wonderful Facebook group that I will link below, and you can type in literally any subject. Like, for example, we just did butterflies and caterpillars. You can type that in the search engine on the Facebook page, and you will get a detailed list of what people use, book resources. This is very handy, but if you just want to use the Facebook resource, that's really great too, because again, we usually just read a book, talk about the subject we're covering, and do an activity. So that was really fun. Let's see, next would be geography. So for geography and science, we did Core Knowledge, again, free online curriculum. So for geography, I started off with the readers, and then I started with the first two readers, and after that I went and I downloaded the student readers to my kids' tablet, and then I would just look off my computer. But again, I think these are really good. We did grade 3, because that's what my oldest was in, and my 5-year-old joined with us. Was some of it probably over her head? Yes, but she was able to follow along. So for geography, actually, we started at, I believe, the kindergarten level and worked our way up to 4th grade, because, like I said previously, my daughter had no geography experience in the public school system. She didn't know anything about maps. She didn't know anything about the continents. So we started at the very bottom and worked our way up, which was kind of nice because my youngest could definitely follow along with a lot of the stuff in the beginning. So like I said, I started with the youngest, K, and then we ended at the 3rd grade unit. World Rivers, I believe, was the last one we did. But I really like that it's written to that age group, so it's not too much information, it's not overwhelming, but it's enough. I love that it builds upon itself, and you could definitely see that since we went through each of the grades. And I really like context and background knowledge to be able to build upon what you know, which is the whole main theme behind Core Knowledge. So again, we read chapters, we do a simple activity. Again, nothing crazy, nothing that required me to get a lot of outside resources, but my kids learned about maps, how to read maps. They learned about the continents. They talked about each specific continent, not in depth, but again, building upon every year what they learn more. They weaved music and art into, I think, starting the 1st or 2nd grade, I forget which one, which was really nice because it flowed very naturally. There's a lot of online resources, again, video links, different games, different things you can do like that. And there were some fun things like we made a travel poster they had to stand up and talk about why they would say it would be a good thing for people to visit there. So they got to do their own research and what they liked about it. So again, this was really great, and it's free. So for science, again, we did this as a group subject. Same thing, we started off with the readers, and then after the first two, we moved to the tablet, just downloading them on the tablet. But again, these were really good. I like that it's not just information, but every chapter has you diving deeper into the concept or solving a problem. For example, we talked about inhabitants and change, conservationists, and they were given a problem and how they would solve the problem, and then they were given examples of how different scientists try to solve those problems. So that was really nice. I do really like that it follows the next generation science standards, so it's based in science. We did some fun activities like growing plants and looking at life cycles. They learned how to analyze graphs and charts, so scientists gather data and how they use that data to represent different things and answer questions. They did a lot of panel discussions. A lot of core knowledge is discussion-based, which is really nice. Now, there are worksheets you can fill out, of course, but a lot of them are discussion-based. So they would have panel discussions when we were talking about specific animals. They did a project where they would research that animal. We would sit together and we would talk about, okay, if this situation happened, how would your animal react? How would their habitat change? What would need to happen? We just finished a fossil dig, which was really fun. So again, core knowledge, it's awesome and free. So the last one I would talk about is our social justice. And social justice is a core subject in our homeschool, and this is what we use. I have a couple unboxings of these too. Again, nothing sponsored here. I buy this all with my own money. Little Justice Leaders is a social justice themed subscription box for children. And we do this through the school year. We do not do it during the summer. And one thing I really like about this is it gives you the ability to pause your subscription multiple times throughout the year. And it's not difficult at all. It's literally you go into your account, you pause it till the date you want it to be renewed. So I really like that, because a lot of subscriptions will make it weird or hard, or you gotta call, or you gotta harass them to stop it. But they make it really easy. Again, love it that each box, some of the proceeds from that box are donated towards the organization that it's about. All the resources are pulled from people in that perspective group that you're talking about. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that we went over this year. We recently just finished our last unit, which was climate change. And again, I make the box last a month long. And it's really easy now that they set it up in a way that there's 4 different lessons, and it gives you a whole list of activities you can do with the box, but each box comes with a book. So this was our climate change book. And one of the activities we did is we talked about carbon footprints. So we made carbon footprints out of paint, and we talked about the different things, how we are contributing to carbon footprints. And then on the other hand, we made helping hands, ways that we can improve or do better to reduce our carbon footprint. So that was really cool. And what's really nice about Little Justice Leaders is they provide information for adults to learn more too, because we can always learn more. There are social justice issues in here I wasn't aware of, because frankly, I've never personally been affected, and I think that's one of the problems, is we don't often think about something unless it personally affects us. So it's really nice to get this box that has all these resources to really dive into things you don't know much about. Next, another one we did was Arab people and identities, and the activity we did for this was really cool. We learned the Arabic alphabet. And what we did was we actually made a family quilt, because that's what the story was about. And my kids each took, and again, these felt squares all came with the box. We each wrote our names in Arabic. That's why you can see some of the bottoms are covered up here, because it says their names on the bottom. And then they each chose a word that they really liked in Arabic. So Dolly, this is my name, Michelle, in Arabic. And horse, kitten, unicorn. So it was really cool to be able to look at Arabic and understand the artistic aspect behind it too, so that was really fun. Next is equality versus equity, which was a really good lesson on fairness and kindness. And what I really like about these boxes is they come with these kind of like motivational posters, things that we can hang up. So this was what was there. I don't have all the books with me because kids put them everywhere. We also talked about pronouns, which is really interesting because it's a subject I haven't really learned a lot about, and talking about gender identity and different things like that. It was really fulfilling to learn and know what we can do more to support people in these communities. So that's what we learned for that. Next was homelessness. And this was, again, a really good book. We talked about what I really like about the box is it gives you a section of what can you do to help. Not just talking about the issue and why it's an issue, but what you can actually go out there and do to help. So for this, we ended up donating food to our local food pantry, and to take it one step farther, since we are a gluten-free family, we made sure we donated allergy-friendly food products, because that is something we talked about. If we need to call upon those resources, what would we do if we have allergies, food allergies and autoimmune conditions? What do you do if you have that and you need to rely on things like food pantries? So we make sure we donate allergy-friendly things to that. Next was food insecurity and food injustice. And this is interesting because I never thought of food insecurity as a social justice issue, but again, because I have not been personally affected by it, but I think this does a really good job talking about how hunger is with children, how difficult it'd be to talk about those issues. We talked about Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. We talked about holidays around the world, of course, in December, which was really nice. We did different projects on different specific holidays they wanted to learn about, so that was really eye-opening. We did a social emotional learning month, and this was a really good book to go with it, mindfulness and things like that. We did Indigenous land and languages during November, which was, again, really helpful to learn more of. We did a youth activism unit, so things like solar energy. This book, or this magazine, talks about different people around the world. We talked about how the sea turtles are affected by the light pollution and how they know to go towards the ocean because of the moon, but if there's too many lights on, they can't do that, and how people, what they can do to help with that. And for example, what we did for this project is we made a video where the kids acted out pollution in the oceans and how that would affect the animals and different things like that. And it was really cool because I could post that to our family members and things like that, and they felt like they were making a difference when we were talking about climate change. One of the activities we do now is we always carry rubber gloves and a bag in our vehicle, so when we go to parks and we know it's trash, we pick it up and we take care of it. So they're seeing those things. My daughter's actively going through the house, making sure everything's turned off and unplugged. If we're not using it, making those changes. And what's really nice is between Little Justice Leaders and Torchlight, I think we received the most personal growth out of everything we've done. Academic-wise, it's great, but most personal growth we have received is between Torchlight and social justice, Little Justice Leaders. And I think that is probably the thing I'm most proud of this year, is how far we've come with that, how much we've learned about other groups and perspectives, and appreciating those perspectives and ideas and opinions. So that is everything we covered for family group subjects, and I have to say it went really, really well, and a lot of this will be continued into next year. So if you have any questions about anything specifically, leave them in the comments down below. Now, thanks for watching.